everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Co-Blueprint. I'm Jeanette Mulvey, the editor of Co from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it. Today, we're talking about re-engaging with your customers. We know this is a really challenging time for small businesses, and we created this series to help you rebuild your business and come through this stronger and better than ever. Each episode, we're partnering with chambers from different regions of the country. We'll get a local take on the national topics that are affecting us all. Today, we're partnering with the Salt Lake Chamber. Before I introduce our panel, there are three things I wanted to go over. First, we'll be taking your questions later in the session, so be sure to type them in the right-hand side of your screen, and if you see a question you like, hit the little thumbs up button to move it higher in the list. Second, we're also conducting an audience poll today. You can answer our poll question on the right-hand side at any time, and we'll reveal those answers later. Today, our poll is, how would you characterize your business state of reopening right now? And lastly, before we get started, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Chase for Business, as well as supporting sponsors ADP, FedEx, MetLife, and Square. And thank you to our chamber partner, the Salt Lake Chamber. So now I'd like to introduce our panel of experts. We'll be starting with Dr. Talaya Waller, a personal branding expert and founder of the Washington, D.C.-based Waller & Company, and Dave Smith, partner and president of the Salt Lake City-based Penna Powers. Welcome to both of you.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Dave, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in Utah. What is the state of reopening there? And what are you hearing from businesses about what their customers need to hear from them right now?
Thanks, Jeanette. I have the unique opportunity of working with the state on the official coronavirus task force, which is charged with helping to disseminate information statewide to everyone about what's going on with the state's battle with the coronavirus. And right now, the state is mostly open for business. We've established guidelines for businesses and people to follow and abide by, and most businesses can open as long as they take the necessary precautions to protect customers and their employees. And so what we're seeing right now for businesses is mainly there's three things that businesses can do. One is they need to look at how they can adapt and innovate during this time. If they didn't offer takeout before, if they're a restaurant or curbside pickup, if they're any sort of retail establishment, have they looked into how to do that and offer that to adapt their business operations to be able to still operate during this time and protect both their customers and their employees. So the first thing they need to do is look at how to adapt and innovate. Second is we need to communicate as small businesses. We need to let our customers know that we're open and we're operating and that we're taking all necessary precautions, and let them know that there's still an opportunity for them to patronize our business. Third is we need to instill that confidence that we are taking all necessary precautions to protect our customers and our employees, and demonstrate that by what we're doing at our workplace in terms of our employees and the protective equipment that they're wearing, our hygiene and cleaning protocols that are in place, and how we're increasing and doing those on an ever more diligent basis to make sure that it's a welcoming environment so we can continue to operate and offer our employees our products and services, our customers, and our employees can do so in a safe manner. So that's what we're seeing right now.
Thanks, Dave. I love that you broke it down into those three tips. Hi, Talaya. I have sort of a similar question for you. As businesses reopen, a lot of what they do really reflects on their brand and their reputation. So what are the most important things businesses need to do in terms of marketing and communication to help build that brand with their customers as they reopen?
Thank you for that question, Jeanette. I think that if the business is what you do, the brand is what people think you do. They're both equally as important to your consumers. So the most important aspects of building a brand as a small business is to continue to deliver on your brand promise. And so I think a lot of businesses think that, okay, while we're not operating or while we're not in full operations, that we cannot continue to do the same thing. But customers are still depending on you to deliver on that promise. And you can do so because a brand exists in your consumers' minds. Now is the time to build out a more robust brand marketing strategy, because essentially everything you do within your operations now becomes an opportunity to market your business as well. Right now, we're marketing the fact that you're reopening, everything is safe, you're taking precaution, like Dave said. And so you need to, at every single touch point, reiterate that message, because marketers understand that it's not just the first time you communicate your brand promise, or the second time, or the third time. It takes multiple touch points and impressions made on your customer to show them that you are that brand. And so I think that one of the things that I've seen is like signage. Signage is very important. Sometimes you might skip out on signage and write it yourself, but I think in this instance, we need to make sure that the message is clear at every single touch point, meaning that it's printed out, and meaning that from the signs that you place on your doors, from the things that you're communicating on your website, even if it's on your menu, just think about every touch point of communication and making sure that your message of your brand is saturated and consistent.
That's great. And I think that people are going to want to write this down. So say it one more time. If your business is what you do, then marketing is what customers think you do. Is that what you said?
If the business is what you do, your brand is what people think you do.
I love that.
They're equally as important.
That is great. I bet a lot of people just wrote that down. Thank you. Hi, so Dave, back to you. So, both of you are essentially talking about the same thing, which is making sure that what your business is doing aligns with what it's communicating, and that all of that aligns with what your customers want and need. But, part of that is you have to know what your customers want and need. And I know you believe that gauging your customers' comfort level is important. So can you talk a little bit about that and tell us, how does a business do that? How do they know what their customers want?
Absolutely, Jeanette. There is no shortage right now of research that is available for any small business to go and review. I just looked at a great national survey from Gallup poll that was done during mid-June that talked about, during this situation, it talked to people and said, what are you doing more or less often, or about the same as you were before this started? And they asked questions such as, did you have groceries delivered? Did you have food from a restaurant? Did you do pickup? Did you visit a medical center? Did you go out and visit a retail store? There's a lot of secondary research out there that any small business with a little bit of searching can find and see what the opinions are of people all across the country, no matter where you are. And then if you want targeted information to your area, a lot of times the media outlets in your areas are doing research on a continual basis, asking people their opinions and comfort levels. You can dive into that. A lot of your local chambers, the Salt Lake Chamber here in the Salt Lake City area, has done a lot of research that we've used to see what people's opinions and comfort levels are. So there's a plethora of secondary research that you can dive into, look through, and see people's opinion. In the same Gallup poll, they said, what are you doing differently now than you were before? And what are you going to continue doing in the future? So you can see how behaviors and opinions either are going to change or stay the same, and you can model your business practices and operations after that. The last thing is, do your own primary research through a simple online research tool or through email. Reach out to your customers and keep it short, keep it simple. Don't make it very long, just a few minutes for them to take and answer a few questions about their comfort level and about what they would like to see, and then use that as you market and talk to them and reach out to them. There's a lot of information.
Yeah, that's really, really great advice. Thank you. Talaya, you are an expert on branding, but particularly brand ambassadors. And I think that when people talk about brand ambassadors, they think about big companies with big budgets. But tell us a little bit about how small businesses can be turning both their customers and their employees into ambassadors for their brands, particularly at this time where they really need to be communicating.
Mm-hmm. I think, like you said, this is a time where we need everybody. And so what a brand ambassadorship program can do is help a small business increase their influence, their reach, and also generate organic growth. And so first, let's start with the owner, right? Because the owner is the person who opens the business and closes the business down. You're the leader. And so your personal brand, now is the time to fully leverage this. So before you're open, making sure that whether it's on LinkedIn, if you have a newsletter and your team, if you get them on a Zoom call, making sure that you're communicating with your stakeholders and everybody that you're trying to get to leverage the brand. Because the leadership comes from you and they're going to follow in your footsteps. Like with COVID, making sure that there's a COVID statement that you sent out. And just really showing people that this is something that you as a leader, you are taking participation in as well. And secondly, your employees. Employees have 8 times the reach on their social media platforms as brands do. I think about the local restaurant in my neighborhood where I don't follow them personally on their restaurant page, but I do follow some of the servers there because they say, hey, are you on social media? So I think as a small business, it's imperative to get your employees different brand assets that they can use, whether that's like a post, some sort of marketing material, certain information for the rollout, for safety measures, like maybe showing behind the scenes. How can you get them involved? Because I have clients who are still paying their employees who are in like the restaurant business. And so it's like while people are home and you're getting ready to reopen, it's important to get people on board and really talk about how you can roll out a content marketing strategy. And then lastly, your customers. I think what customers are looking for is that brand promise of that experience that they're used to. But like Maddie Watkins said at the last event, people need to understand that we're not necessarily going back to normal, but you can still deliver on your promise of a great experience by setting expectations with your customers. Also, giving customers, going above and beyond expectations and doing things for customers that maybe other businesses and your competitors aren't thinking about. And I think that that's really going to stand out at a time like now when things are very uncertain. People want to go back to the places that they've been before. Make sure that when they return back to your establishment, that it's a very warm and welcoming experience and it's safe and you're all in this as a community together. I think that's the strongest thing that you can do for your customers. So.
Great, thank you. That's really, really good tactical advice. So Dave, because you work with so many businesses in both your work with the state and your business, you've seen a lot of what people are doing. So I know you have some really good examples of people you think are doing it well. Did you want to share some of those with us?
Yes, that would be great. One of our clients that we worked with for many years is a local grocery store chain called Harmon's, your neighborhood grocer. And when the pandemic first started, we're all familiar with the stories of people getting into conflict, arguments, even fights over toilet paper, over flour, over some of the basic necessities as they were going to the grocery store and trying to stock up because they weren't sure how long they might be stuck at home. Harmon's, recognizing what was happening and recognizing that setting the right tone during a time like this with your customers is so vitally important. And rather than market a particular product at their store, whether it was a produce product or a meat product or whatever, they took a step back and said, we need to, through our marketing and our ability to reach the masses, try to restore some sense of order with the right tone. And so one of the first things they ran was a electronic billboard campaign that said kindness will always be in stock, as you can see right there, which we, in working with them in our recommendation when we came up with this line, was to take a bigger picture view of what was going on and try to help everyone recognize that kindness is more important than anything else at this time. And then Neighbors Helping Neighbors was another opportunity to showcase that while a lot of us were working from home remotely, there were those frontline workers in addition to the healthcare workers who were putting their lives on the line. But we also had our grocery store frontline workers who were helping people to find the supplies that they needed. And we wanted to remind everyone that we're all neighbors helping neighbors, and to maintain that decorum as we work together, and that as we put our lives on the line to serve you, that we can also reciprocate. And then they were one of the first stores to offer senior and at-risk customer hours to, again, help your customers to feel safe and taken care of while they're visiting your establishment. And so this was a good example to us of setting the right tone during a time like this.
Yeah, those are some great examples. So I want to thank you both. I am going to now bring in to join us two small business owners. We have Molly Mazzolini from Infinite Scale, which is a Salt Lake City-based sports branding company, and Marcus Jones from Miss Essie's Southern Barbecue, which has both a catering and a food distribution business, and they are also based in Salt Lake City. So Molly and Marcus, welcome to our panel.
Hi, Jeanette.
Hi, guys. So Molly, I'm going to start with you. Your business provides branding for sports teams and stadiums. So sports is all you do. So I know you've been heavily impacted. So tell us a little bit about how you've been affected and how you've pivoted to serve your customers differently.
Yes, well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me, to the U.S. Chamber, to the Salt Lake Chamber, and Jeanette, to you for moderating and hosting us all today. As you mentioned, Infinite Scale is a sport design consultancy, and our clientele is the sports industry. So it's been one of the top 10 industries that's been negatively affected by the global pandemic because it's literally in stop mode. But as we're starting to see, it's starting to come online. But we initially felt it here in Salt Lake City on March 11th when one of our NBA hometown team, Utah Jazz basketball players, tested positive for COVID-19. And I think that is going to become a moment that people will remember, at least people in Utah are fans of the Utah Jazz, because that's kind of that moment when you say to yourself, like, where were you when you heard that news? But it affected so many more because it, in essence, paused an entire league, the NBA, and then there was a trickle effect after that. And in fact, March 12th is actually affectionately known as the day that sport died due to COVID-19. However, it's coming back on track. But just because that sector that we serve stopped, we, Infinite Scale, kept going. So right now, Infinite Scale is in week 14 of work from home. And one of the first things we did after getting our team settled in their home offices is that we developed a COVID-19 plan. And getting our team settled in their home offices was pretty intense because as designers and project managers, we have very specialized computer setups and software, and obviously we need internet that's working really well to be able to communicate with one another. But we were able to get everybody online and ready to go in a matter of a few days. And we also connected with our team on a daily basis to ensure that they had everything that they needed to be able to work from home right away. And then we developed this roadmap to COVID-19, which is something that none of us went to school for, none of us studied, right? And we just had to jump right in. And our kind of manifesto for that is preserve, adapt, and serve. And so for us, our definition of those three terms was preserve our team, our budget as a business, our clients, adapt to this new normal of working from home, but how can we also pivot for our clients based on their needs now? And what services can we provide to them? And then, of course, serve. As a sport design consultancy, we don't make anything, so we couldn't pivot right away and make masks. But what we could do is tell our team members that, how can they serve their community, perhaps using their computer equipment to design a logo or do something that would be able to help their community moving forward. And also, how can we dial in our own house, our business, and be ready to return to our new normal? So preserve, adapt, serve was the way that we responded right away.
Great. I'm going to go to Marcus now. Thank you, Molly. Marcus, same question for you. Tell us, what does your business do and how is it impacted? And then tell us how you shifted your business after the pandemic hit.
Sure. So first of all, thanks a lot for having us on this panel again, and it's a great opportunity and an honor. But I'm Marcus Jones, owner, founder of Miss Essie Southern Barbecue. We are a manufacturing company that manufactures smoked meats, barbecue sauce, and also we do catering as another part of our business. COVID-19 impacted us. When it hit in early March, basically everything shut down. So obviously when restaurants started closing, our orders for our meat products and barbecue sauce from our distributions like Nicholas and Cisco basically got canceled, or they downsized in number due to the closing of restaurants. And then on top of that, with hospitality side of doing catering. So you have corporate catering, event catering, personal catering. We were looking at like huge numbers going into the year 2020. So I was really excited about that. It was like 480K going, these were record breaking numbers for our company. And we were all looking for we were all looking forward to having this new growth, new clientele, and just being a huge a force to be reckoned with in this area. So that all just went away. Basically, we had to come back, regroup, and look at what we needed to do to have a system in place. And essentially, we closed for 30 days, got with our team, our marketing team, got with Dion, who's my business partner, CEO, and basically, regrouped and came up with a great plan. Basically, when people come in, how do we service them? Making sure while we need to stay safe and they need to stay safe. Also, most importantly, how do we keep the food safe? How do we make sure it's being touched by very few people, but being completed in steps? So those things that we really took a hard look at, and we did a great job. And our biggest, credit to Costco, because they really saw small business as a viable source to the economy. And they called us and said, look, we want to support you guys. We want you guys to come in, feed our employees. They're essential. They are essential employees. So basically, they were open. They were, stocking shelves all night, staying open around the clock, making sure, families had what they needed. So I was excited to the point, hey, we got business. Money's coming into the door. So we refabricated our whole process to meet essential employees. So definitely credit to the Costco team for help giving us the business and making sure our doors stayed open, but also credit to them to being a leader and an example of how we should be treating customers and keeping them safe as well. So
this was a new customer. Costco was a new customer for you.
Yes.
In this instance. So that's really interesting that you found a new customer during this time.
Yes.
Thank you, Marcus. I'm going to go back to Molly. Molly, you are a B2B business. So, communicating with your customers is different than if you had a B2C business. So tell me a little bit about how you went about checking in with your customers and hearing what they needed from you.
So what we did is we connected with them right away. And our version of that was checking in on them first, then their business. So I was asking questions like, how are you doing? How is your family? Are you staying healthy and well? And that was definitely a way that we could serve, just to check and see how they're doing, and even connecting all our project managers and executive team did the same thing. And for us, it was really important because we have such close client relationships that are ongoing and they're long-term. And so that is something that is applicable to any industry or any size business to scale that. And then from there, we listened to them, and we knew that a new normal was upon us, even though the only thing that we knew is that everything was unknown. And it's still that way. We're starting to get a little bit more, guardrails, if you will, about the return to sport and even the return to our new normal for everyone. But our adapt plan is that first, we helped clients wrap up the projects that we knew that could possibly go on pause or hold or may not be green lighted yet because of COVID, because perhaps they're not even having them, because you can't gather people together to watch sport in one venue. And so we helped them figure out where we could kind of hit the pause button and wrap it up nicely in a bow and deliver what we could in terms of our contract and work agreements with them, and then decide when we could activate again. Give them a date, for example, if their event is green lighted, and when we can come back in and activate, so there's enough time to be able to continue design and to work with vendors to produce and install and get it ready for them. And then from there, we developed what we call a sport comeback program, which is how our teams and events and venues adapt to sport returning to play. And usually phase one is what we're seeing right now is most likely going to be a scenario where it's broadcast only, but you have operations staff and you have athletes that are in the building and they're playing. And so how do we create new revenue generation opportunities on this broadcast? And how do we add a signage layer for items like social distancing or local and state rules for health and safety protocols, and pulling these entire message plans together into this sport comeback program is the way that we're adapting to the variety of venues and clients and events that we service.
Great. Thank you, Molly. Marcus, so things are reopening and restaurants are starting to reopening, and I know that your catering can be done outside. So what steps are you taking to reconnect with your customers and say, hey, we're ready to serve you, or what are your needs? So how are you going about communicating with customers?
I think the two things is adapt and communicate. Signage is one of them. But also, I think for us, the biggest thing is how do we feed people, and how do we, one is staying consistent and having accountability for what we're doing. And I think those things together will, the customer at the end of the day will see, you're genuine in what you're doing. The food that you're putting out or the product that you're putting out is great. They will tell one person, that one person will tell another person. So basically, it's word of mouth. We're connecting with new people every day. And at the end of the day, I think for us as a business as a whole, we got out. We're still business to business, but we're more now. We're business to customer. And interacting with those customers a whole lot more. So right now we are just, hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Molly, I have a couple of minutes. I'm going to come back to you. I was asking you specifically about your own business, but you're a branding expert. So what advice do you have for small businesses in any industry on just kind of what they should be thinking about with their branding right now?
Sure. Even though the sports ecosystem is different from like Marcus's restaurant ecosystem, and even people who are watching today, here are some things that you can think about for you, your clients, and your team. So for you, stay on the pulse of your industry. And a perfect example of that is virtual conferences like this one. You tuned in because you were thinking about your industry as a business owner. And then there's also that layer of specialized components too. Like, for example, for me, I have been seeking out sport industry news through virtual conferences and webinars, and even new podcasts that are coming out. And most of those are free or minimal in terms of, the price to participate. Regarding your clients, make it easy on them. Talaya mentioned this earlier, and Dave did as well, regarding changing your signage and your messaging to be able to connect with what's happening now. Like, for example, if we were to, well, here's the perfect example. The opening credits of this event showed people with masks on. It wasn't stock footage from a couple months ago. It's, things that are happening now and today, which is so cool. And so be sure to update your imagery, be sure to refine your brand with the copy, and be sure to address and point out that we are in a new normal, and it's different for everyone and it's different for every business. But let your clients know that it is easy to come and see you as a business, and put your hours on the Instagram profile, put your hours on the door, but make sure to remove your old hours. Don't have both of them posted there, because I've been into businesses and I'm like, which one is it? Because I want to service them, but you have to make it easy on me as a customer. Yeah. And then finally, your team is so important. And the best thing, what we're doing is we're following the late NBA commissioner David Stern's advice that he gave to so many, which is be decisive, be calm, and be visible. And this relates to you and your brand.
That's great. Thank you so much. Marcus, I have just a minute, but I want to ask you if you could pick one thing that you did differently during the pandemic that you actually now think you will do the same way going forward. Is there one thing that you're doing differently that you will continue no matter what now?
I think the customer, business to customer, that interaction is priceless. Selling directly to the customer, having more interaction with that customer, that really puts us on the forefront of being known in the state of Salt Lake City, and getting our product and our name out there. But most of all, I think they get to see who I am, who my business is, and just have that more personal relationship with the customer.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people say that they found new customers now that they will focus on going forward. So thank all of you for that. It's time for our audience Q&A. Audience, you can continue to put your questions in the Q&A. Before I start asking them, I just want to go over our poll results so you know what the status of reopening is for most of our audience. So it looks like, okay, so 45% of the people here today, their businesses are open. And then we have pretty much an even split at a quarter each, with partially open and open but remote. So only 5% are closed, and I'm not sure what other means. But so most businesses are open in some capacity. So it's good to know who we're talking to. Before we go to the Q&A, we are going to try something new this week, and we're going to take a second poll, which is asking the question, what word describes your customer's mindset right now? And we're going to do this in real time, so we can watch it happen. So please enter that word. Cautious, I see, is getting a lot of attention. I like cautious but willing, which means hopefully they are willing to spend. Cautious is not leaving as the main. I don't think that surprised any of the panelists. We talked about this before, and we all sort of felt that cautious. And Marcus, you had a slightly different word. Hesitant, was that your word?
Yeah.
Yeah. So cautious and hesitant. So I see some excited in there. Ready to come back and spend, apprehensive but hopeful. So I think this gives us a good idea of where our audience thinks that their customers are. So thanks to all of you who voted or who entered your words. I'm going to, panelists, go to the Q&A now, and I am going to start with you, Talaya, because there was one more question I wanted to ask you before, so I'm going to ask that question of you now. So that question was, what can business owners do to ensure that the brand they are building stays customer focused through reopening and continues to be that post-pandemic?
Mm-hmm. I think that the first thing is to realize that at all times you are building your brand offline and online today. Where I think as pre-COVID, I think we could get away with doing all offline if we wanted to. Today, that's no longer true. And so with your offline brand strategy, now you need to optimize every single point of an impression that your brand is making on the consumer. That point might be on your website, it might be on the newsletter, social media, on a door, through word of mouth. You need to first identify all touch points, and then step number 2 would be to optimize them. Right now, when you have a limited amount of resources, time, staffing, how can you be as creative as possible to maximize that experience that your consumer and your customer is getting? So that is your offline strategy. But then the online strategy is like the brand ambassadors. So how can we leverage everybody's personal brand right now? How can we leverage the consumer's personal brand? You need a content strategy for that. You need a content strategy for your employees, and you need a content strategy for your own personal brand as a business owner, as the leader, because everything that a business is comes from that person who started it and had that idea for it. And so, yeah, you're like the head of it. So I think that would be.
That's great advice. Thank you. Molly, I am coming to you next. And I'm asking you this because I think you're still sort of in this situation yourself. This person says, I'm not allowed to open yet, but want to start engaging customers now. So what's the best way to reach them while they're closed?
You know, I've seen a lot of businesses just, you know, I like to watch what other businesses are doing, kind of like how a quarterback studies film, right? You know, the film of the game that he or she just played. And I do the same thing with brands, whether they're in my space or not, because you can always pick up team tips and things that others have done and apply them to you. So with that, be very observant. But I also think it's okay, as Talaya said, like put your story out there and let people know what you have been doing and or what you want to do upon your return. When do you anticipate returning and why are you not online? It may be super clear to you that there is a local, you know, a state or a local ordinance that's requiring you to be closed. Let your clients know why, but start that outreach. Let people know that you are still there. Again, going back to the be visible component of the advice previously given, taken from David Stern. Being visible is not only you as an individual and a brand ambassador, tying it back to what Talaya and Dave said earlier, but it's also you as your business, and they all go hand in hand.
That's great. Thanks, Molly. Dave, I'm going to come to you with this one. How, because you seem like a really genuine guy, how do I appear genuine and not desperate when people know my industry has been hurting? So I assume they mean when communicating with customers and inviting them back or whatever they're doing at this point.
Absolutely. That's how I interpret that question as well, Jeanette. And I would say you've got to be honest. You have to be yourself. We've heard a lot of great advice on this video call today, and part of it is you are your brand. So be honest about what you're going through, because everyone is going through the same thing. We may have different circumstances, but we're dealing with this locally, statewide, and nationally, and globally. So we all understand what everyone is going through. So be honest, and let your customers know what your situation is, but then be genuine in how important those customers are to you, and how important they are to your continued ability to deliver to them what they like about you and your product, and how you are doing everything you can to make that available to them, and that you appreciate knowing that they're going through tough times as well. Our customers may not have as much disposable income as they had before because they're going through the same situation. Recognize that, but also invite them to continue to maintain their relationship with you and to support you in an honest and open way. We always believe that the most honest and open you can be about your situation and let people see that will keep them connected to you on a customer level and on a personal level, and they will appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that honesty advice is good advice. Marcus,
Yes.
you talked about word of mouth.
Yeah.
So this person says, what are the most effective low-cost ways to market your business?
You know, I don't know. For me, it's effective, but in the food industry, I think it's effective. If you have food and you want to get your product out there, or any product that you might have, you can. I always practice. Hey, give it away. You never know what somebody thinks until you do that, and let them try it. Giving out samples, lots of samples to people that come in. Pre-COVID, that was demoing the product in grocery stores. Actually, we're in COVID right now, so it's a little bit different. So when people come in, especially close friends, don't be afraid to say, "Hey, man, listen, I need you to if you like the product, give me a positive write-up on Google or Facebook, some social media networking site, so that so people can know you're out there. Don't be afraid to take pictures of your product and send them out in the social media aspect, and just don't be afraid also to somebody comments about your product on social media. Comment back. Hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. Come by the office next time, and we'll get you a plate, free barbecue sauce, something. But something's better than nothing too. So those are low-hanging fruits that you can very well be very successful at. And as time goes on, those people will remember you, and they will be loyal to your brand.
Yeah, that's great advice. Talaya, I wonder if you might also have some advice on low-cost ways to market.
Mm-hmm. I thought that everything that Marcus said was excellent, because word of mouth is still the strongest marketing channel that there is. And so really providing an experience that someone will want to tell their friends. And this isn't just for the in-house dining or, whatever you're doing within the business operations physically, but also online and at home. So when somebody's like at home and you're delivering something, or they're ordering instead of going inside of the store and shopping, how can you make that experience a little bit more personalized? So maybe writing in a personal note, just something different. If you're delivering food, maybe putting something different in the packaging. Like, I know here, Uber Eats, I can order Joe's, which Joe's is typically, I feel like, a restaurant that would be a little bit more high end. So how do they continue to deliver a high end experience and continue that brand? And I noticed that even in the packaging, no matter what you order online, they'll send you like all the breads as if you were sitting there and dining inside of the restaurant. And that's something that I haven't seen any of the other restaurants do. So small things, but they are still in line with your brand. So if you're a barbecue place, typically maybe give people an apron, a plastic apron, like put that in the bag for the to-go orders. Just making sure that people have a standout experience, because now is the time to shine, because there's less people, I guess, to compete with, but at the same time, there's going to be less customers to grab. So you have to be as creative as possible.
When we talk about Joe's, are we talking about Joe's with like the little corn muffins in the basket?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, Joe's. Yes. And yes, the bread is amazing, all of it. So.
I might come down and order a takeout. Molly, do you want to weigh in on this as
Barbecue takeout. Barbecue takeout.
Barbecue. Yes. Yes, I would love to add on to that. A lot of our businesses are in hiring freezes, but there is an amazing community that is out there that we can tap into that is low on your budget, but high impact on your brand. And there's two of them. One, the local artist community, where you can reach out to them to help them create signage. It could be something simple as posting your hours or your logo or your brand, or we're open, Or I've even seen artists put together these big, beautiful, they just took something as simple as plywood and their talent and wrote "Be kind." And it turned into a beautiful Instagram opportunity where clients who were coming to pick up their takeout or shop, if that shop was open or shops around there were open, were gathering around it and taking pictures and posting it. Yet again, another great way for them to tag you as the location, and that they went and picked up, takeout and had this awesome opportunity and little mini experience, something to brighten their day. And then if you're not that tech savvy and you're thinking about your social platforms, hire a recent graduate, even a high school graduate or a college graduate. They need jobs right now, and they can help you activate a social media plan. You teach them about your brand and your product or your service, and then they can start to push things out for you and again, connect to your consumers.
I love that idea of creating mini experiences. So I just want to highlight that. I think that's a great idea and something that can be done very inexpensively. Dave, I'm coming to you for this one. This says many small businesses moved online for the first time during this crisis, which I have heard from so many businesses. So now they have this new connection with customers. How do you maintain that once you go back to seeing customers in person?
Well, this is one of the side benefits of going through a pandemic, that you obtain new customers via online sources. And so hopefully, and it's not too late to do this, that you've instigated a mechanism to capture their email addresses, their information, and you can continue to market to them even when you reopen your store or you have more foot traffic for brick and mortar establishment. For example, as Utah has reopened, a lot of venues are on a reservation system only. So you have to go in and reserve time to go if you want to go visit that venue via an online service or via email. Well, this is a great opportunity to have your customers' data and information that then you can, in a measured and appropriate way, continue to market to them with discounts, with specials, with opportunities to invite them to come back. I would look at it as you've now just increased the amount of people who are potential customers and utilize this resource and capture it appropriately so you can continue to communicate with them and give them incentives to return and patronize your business.
That's great. Thank you so much. Marcus, that question was about online customers, and I know it wasn't, so much your business before, but I did want to mention something that we haven't talked about, which is that you also sell products to grocery stores, and you saw a giant increase in your grocery store sales during this time. And so are you also selling those products online directly to customers?
Yes, we are. So the barbecue sauce we're selling online, you can buy it at Harmon's, and we're hopefully, so you can buy it at Harmon's. But also for the catering side, for small, we developed a thing called family meals. So you can pick up any kind of size meal for 3 to 6 people, up to 8 to 10 people. And basically, you want to talk about low budget marketing, we put a PDF on the site and like, yo, this is your Google site, or this is how you sign up, and it's just literally like a Word document that you can change, and people can email us back, and then we can confirm the cost and things like that. But yes, so we our sales in the grocery stores are 15 to 20%. So I was excited to hear about that. Obviously, the great thing, going through this COVID thing, it has allowed us, one, I definitely wanted to say this, going through this COVID thing has allowed us, one, to grow still, which has been great. But it's allowed us, it slowed everything down for us to do that. And what I mean by that is it literally allowed, in my mind, it's an equal playing field with everybody, even the big fish out there that they have bigger budgets than you. So now I feel like you can go out and you can push your brand a lot better and a lot more. Just be consistent with it.
Thank you. Talaya, this person wanted to ask if you could talk a little bit more about brand ambassadors, but particularly how to either acquire them, connect with them, or create them when they're not, in-house people or your own employees.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of working with people who are outside of the organization, you really have to think about what your goal is. That's the first thing. Like, what is the goal of the marketing campaign? And then who your audience is. You would want to find brand ambassadors that are already influencers for your target audience. So if your target audience, like let's say maybe you're a restaurant near a college campus, so that's an easy one because you think students. I need to get students to be my brand ambassadors. What do I give them? Maybe you give them a stipend to eat for free, Maybe you give them like some sort of meal plan, but they have to build or garner X amount of influence. And then now that we have social media, that can be leveraged. Like when I was in college, if I was a brand ambassador, I think Molly was speaking to this, like I would have to learn about the company and then I would like be on campus passing out flyers. But today, if I'm a brand ambassador, I'm going to be on social media. I'm going to be at home curating things, creating posts, maybe eating a sandwich. We think about competitions. Competitions are another way to get brand ambassadors for free. Let's think Chick-fil-A versus Popeyes and the whole chicken sandwich thing. Like that was something that was offline and online. So because they were literally going to buy these chicken sandwiches and then posting about it online. So those are brand ambassadors. Those are your customers being brand ambassadors.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. I have time for 2 more questions. So I'm going to come to you first, Molly, and then Dave, I'm going to come to you with the last question. So Molly, 2 questions combined here, but essentially people are asking how to go about finding new customers during the pandemic.
Yes, and Talaya, I passed out flyers too. So I get that. So new customers for us, our projected revenue stream, and it's just not the same as what we thought it to be. And we even have some projects that we were awarded, but they're not necessarily giving us the work agreement or even the notice of award until they know that they are going to have a return to play, because they have to be cautious, right? And we mentioned that word earlier in the word cloud, or we saw it. Our clients are hesitant but hopeful. What we're specifically doing is that we're looking for projects that are in the non-sport world, especially in Utah, because the most likely it doesn't require travel or minimal travel, even though we are traveling for at least, we're actually 2 projects now, and we're traveling very safely. But that's also one way where you can increase revenue if your projects allow. And if you can clearly state and align why you have to increase your costs in order for your team to provide the protocols that are necessary to operate in our new unnormal, then I think that is appropriate as long as you're extremely transparent with your clients. And obviously it's a mutual agreed upon, right? And having that conversation with them up front and prior to the work beginning. I think those are ways that you can increase your revenue. And one other thing would be, could you do something that is similar, but yet you may not normally offer on your website? So for us, could we perhaps do like more brand work that is a little bit different than working directly into a venue and creating an experience? Or I saw a 3-star Michelin women-owned restaurant in the Bay Area owned by Dominique Crenn, who obviously had to shut down her restaurant. But what she did is she created these kits that can be used for families to provide them with healthy meals. And that also extended into healthcare workers as well. So how can you pivot slightly to increase your revenue?
Right.
do in a different way.
Right. Thank you, Molly. Dave, we have just a couple minutes left for you, but I think this is an important question. There are so many social media platforms to choose from, and we have limited staff to manage them. So where would you recommend people prioritize their energy and resources?
That's a great question because there are so many. And the simple answer to that is, where are your customers? There is a lot of information that you can track down that highlights who's on Facebook, who's on Twitter, who's on Instagram, who's on Snapchat. TikTok is the latest social media platform that seems to have made it past the initial stage of excitement and continues to grow. So it really comes down to, you've got to look at those platforms and see who uses those and tie that to who your customers are, and then use the platform where your customers are and focus your energies on that platform.
That's great. Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to weigh in on that? I have just 1 minute. If there's any, I felt like, yeah, go ahead, Marcus.
I was going to say one brief thing. For small businesses, don't be afraid to, I know your finances might be tight or the cash might not be there, but don't be afraid to go to a Molly or somebody like a Talaya or Dave to invest a little money to get that expertise that you're looking for, so you can get those answers. One thing, if you do go out and do it yourself, there's damage that you can do to your brand, and that could be irreversible or it could be reversible. So I think the best thing to do, take a little investment, call them, hey, I got $500. What can I do with it? Something like that, $200. I don't know if that, but that advice is crucial. Those are the keys that's going to allow you to navigate through this pandemic.
Thank you, Marcus. And that is the last word, and I really appreciate it. So that's it. That's all we have time for today. I want to thank Talaya, Dave, Marcus, and Molly for joining me today. I'd also like to thank our presenting sponsor, Chase for Business, as well as our supporting sponsors, ADP, FedEx, MetLife, and Square. And thank you to our chamber partner, the Salt Lake Chamber. And most of all, thank you to all of us for taking time out of your busy day to join me today. Now, after this, our next event is 2 weeks from now. So please join us in 2 weeks on Wednesday, July 1st. We will be discussing different business strategies for surviving in these uncertain times. In the meantime, check out these great resources from Chase for Business, the U.S. Chamber, and Co. Later today, be on the lookout for an email with these resources, along with a special invitation from Chase to further discuss this topic in one of their events, webinar later this week. That's it for me. Thank you so much. Together we will reopen, recover, and rebuild. See you guys soon, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.